What's up, people? Another episode of Just for Sports. Your OK Davis here with you, and I am excited. It's opening day, and this is one of the best days in sports. You got the start of the baseball season. You've got March Madness, Sweet 16 games. You got the NBA season coming down to the playoffs. And I'm going to talk about all three. And I got a little bit of NFL as well. But I'm going to start with Major League Baseball. I am excited for the start of this season. I'm going to have some bold predictions for you. But the funny thing is that as I'm going to go through my gut check picks for the season, because I want to keep this quick, right? I don't want you to be sitting here watching me or listening to me go on too long about each one of these teams, but I will dive a little bit into each team as I talk about my picks. But there's something about baseball that basketball, hockey, football, and even tennis, as the other sports that I watch, simply doesn't have. And we'll also get to hockey too in the Ovi watch, as he will become the greatest scorer of all time. And that's almost not even a question anymore. He is the greatest scorer of all time, and it will come very soon. But there's something about summertime baseball, being able to relax. It is a much more enjoyable sport where you don't feel like you're like, huh. And I love those sports. I love watching action, right? I mean, I think that's where I fell in love with sports in general, was because of the action. But there's something about baseball. You get the food, you relax, you enjoy yourself. Maybe you're with family or friends. You're having a good time. You're outside, right? There's just a lot more to it in my mind of what you can enjoy about baseball that the other sports don't necessarily have, right? I mean, yes, you can love football outside, but come on. When it gets to be wintertime and you're like bundled up, it's not as much fun, right? I mean, at least in a baseball game when it's hot, you maybe go in a clubhouse. They have cooling stations now. So I'm not going to go all into it, but I like that aspect of a baseball game and more Major League Baseball. And then there's also the aspect of as at my age where, talk about your parents living vicariously through your kids, and I don't. But my kid, at least one of them now, plays sports a lot. And talking to other moms and dads who are curious about what sport their kid might be good at, or why do you like this sport or that sport. My main thing that I would bring about baseball is that it was the best of both worlds. If you didn't necessarily want an individual sport like golf or tennis, where it's just your kid. I mean, obviously, unless you play doubles in tennis, but realistically, in many ways, it's your kid, and that's it. But then you got the other sports where maybe you don't necessarily want to be on a team where you have to rely on other teammates, et cetera, et cetera. And our middle kid plays soccer, right? He plays soccer. But it really was something for me that I felt like baseball, as our son played baseball, and 2 years ago they won a championship. He's like, it's the best day of the year for me, Dad. It is a one-on-one sport, right? It's batter versus pitcher or vice versa. And in many ways, that's kind of it. I mean, yeah, if you're on the base pass, yeah, your other teammate can bring you home or you can get out, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But the bottom line is, in my mind, really is a one-on-one sport. And that's another reason why I like baseball, because you got the best of both worlds. Team sport, but it's still one-on-one. All right, enough of that. Let's go into my gut check picks, and we're going to start with the NL East. It's easy to be excited about the glitz and glamour of the Mets, and they signed Juan Soto, even though I think he got way overpaid for his services, and he's bounced around a lot, right? What, like 4 teams in 3 years? I just, in my mind, I don't know if the Mets, and I said it in video you may have seen on social media, I don't even know if they're going to make the playoffs. I don't. My pick are the Braves. That's my gut check pick. The return of Ronald Acuna Jr. and Spencer Strider, at the core, they are the two players that you need to get to the World Series. And I'm just talking about winning the NL East right now. But the fact that the Braves even made the playoffs without them is a testament to what that team has at its core. They are really good. I had Chris Sale on my team. And man, I love Chris Sale last year. And to me, it was kind of a surprise. But I think that this team, it's going to be exciting. Spencer Schwellenbach, I think, is going to be a star. He's a star. And I just think the Braves, as much as it's a bummer for the Phillies and the Mets to think, oh no, but maybe we can get there too. I just don't think you are. I don't know if that's an easy pick, but that's my gut check pick. I feel like it's going to be the Braves. It's going to be the Braves. All right, NL Central. I had a tough one on this one. And I think what made it the toughest is that when I look at that division, you've got the Reds, the Brewers, Pirates, Cardinals. Because remember last year, the Pirates started off hot and then they faded, right? The Reds, I don't want to say they came out of nowhere, but it was like, okay, you were surprised by what you got out of the Reds. Milwaukee Brewers are a good team. St. Louis Cardinals are a decent team. But realistically, my pick to win the NL Central is the Chicago Cubs. I think that Matt Shaw is going to be amazing. I wanted Kyle Tucker in my baseball draft. I wanted Kyle Tucker, and it just didn't come to fruition for me. And that was a bummer. I thought for sure that maybe he would get there or fall down to me, if you will. But I just think that it's the Cubs' year. They've got enough of what it takes, and they have a really good manager that they got from the Milwaukee Brewers, right? And for me, just looking at this team, and I know that they already are 0-2 on the season because they were playing overseas. But I think that this is the year for the Cubs. It's the year for the Cubs. And it will be, with Craig Counsell leading them, I think that the Cubs will be the team to beat. All right. NL West. This was the easiest pick. It's the Dodgers. I mean, come on. Everybody's picking the Dodgers. It's not even a real gut check pick to say the Dodgers. The team is just stacked. You're going to get Shohei Ohtani, the real $700 million man, pitching and batting at some point. I know in many ways that there are a lot of, dare I say, haters. Haters because the Dodgers basically bought everybody. And they did. They did. But what I have said for a while now, and I can't imagine that players are upset about it because the salaries are going up and up and up. But until there is a salary cap, in many ways, yeah, the team with the most money has that chance to win. But the added part for the Dodgers is that if you go all the way back and you think about the times that they've got to the World Series, and is it all about the money? It's not. Yes, there's no doubt that they have a lot of money, but the key is their president of baseball operations, Andrew Friedman, came from the Tampa Bay Rays. And I know all of you who are baseball fans know the history of the Tampa Bay Rays. They have done more with less than any other team in Major League Baseball. My hat every year goes off to the Tampa Bay Devil Rays. I don't know how they do it. Oh, I guess it's not the Devil Rays anymore. It's just the Rays. I don't know how they do it, but they do it. And Andrew Friedman is from that stock, if you will. He grew up in the Rays system. So his view of analytics, his view of what players to get is only enhanced by money. And now he's got more of it than he ever thought he would ever have. And so it's not even a gut check pick to pick the Dodgers. They are just that good. Who they have on their team. We knew they were going to get Roki Sasaki. We knew that. You get Clayton Kershaw back, right? You get Mookie Betts back. Almost said his name wrong. Blake Snell, Yamamoto, Freddie Freeman. It's just, and my favorite player, if at first you don't succeed, try again, is Blake Trinan. And I used to say that when he was with the Nats. That was my thing. I don't know why I would say that. It was just something that I would say. And there is just something about they also have Tyler Glasnow too, which is another player. But there is something about this team that is just magical. And I enjoy watching them. Now, I've got to be true to what I say here in that I'm not a bandwagon fan. I am not really a Dodgers fan, but I have become more and more liking and rooting for players. And I root for Shohei Ohtani. I root for Mookie Betts. And I'm just excited to see the opportunities. And am I jinxing them a little bit? Maybe to say they're going to win, because I think, yes, my gut check pick is that the Dodgers will win 118 games and win back-to-back World Series. And going into New Year's, I picked UConn to three-peat. And that didn't come to fruition. Hope I'm not a jinx. But I don't know if anybody's mad about the Dodgers going back-to-back. What is there not to love about this team? Okay, you could say, well, they spend a lot of money, but they weren't the only team to spend a lot of money, but they had the right mix to win it all. They had the right mix to win it all. And I think that there's a good chance that they can do it again. They can do it again. All right. American League. I'm going to start out west again. To see the Texas Rangers beat the Arizona Diamondbacks and win the World Series, and then have the random year that they did last year I have to admit, that's kind of disappointing. That was, you did not expect them to fall the way that they did. But I think they're going to bounce back. If Jacob deGrom is healthy, that's a big part of it. Bruce Bochy is a top-notch manager, right? If I remember correctly, he's won a World Series in the AL and NL now. I think that they've got a team, if they can get more production from Garcia, Simeon, Jung, they've got offensive firepower. And when I look at the rest of the American League West, the Athletics, that are just the Athletics, they don't even have a city right now. They could be a sleeper pick, right? They could be a sleeper to make the playoffs. That is one of my gut check picks. But I think the Astros are a much different team now. Seattle Mariners, offensively, they even tried. They traded for Randy Arozarena late last year, thinking that could help spark the offense and give some protection for Julio Rodriguez, who's on my team. I just don't know if they've got the offense, in my mind, is where I think about why I will not necessarily pick Seattle to win the AL West. I think that it will be the Texas Rangers, and because they won the World Series, like, they were there. They still have the core of that team that can get back there, and they have proven that they know how to get back there. And I think that, it's no different. It's kind of funny when I think back on the old days of Joe Gibbs coaching the Washington football team, and they will win the Super Bowl and then have a mediocre season, then win the Super Bowl. What, it was 86, 88, 91, I think. So I think in many ways that there ebbs and flows. And I think this is that flow year for the Texas Rangers, and that is my gut check pick. That's my gut check pick. AL Central. This was probably the hardest one to pick for me, was the AL Central, because my first thought was the Cleveland Guardians. But I also felt like the team isn't quite the same team that they were the year before. Jose Ramirez lost some protection. And so this was very difficult to pick. And my gut pick is the Detroit Tigers. Why the Detroit Tigers? One of the main reasons that I picked Detroit is because of their manager. I was very hard, rightfully so in my mind. I was very hard on the Houston Astros and the trash can gate. I didn't think it was, the punishment didn't fit the crime to me. I felt like they should have gotten more what happened in Houston is unacceptable. And I think they got a slap on the wrist, in my mind. But you had a manager who knows how to win. And he has proven it in Detroit. I think that they have bought in. Tariq Scooble's going to be amazing. I think they've bought into AJ Hinch. Last year was a big year for them. Jack Flaherty's going to return. You've got Jackson. I'm going to say his name wrong. Is it Joby? I really like what they have there. And they've got Riley Green, Parker Meadows, Colt Keith, Trey Sweeney. A lot of players that you've never heard of. If realistically, come on, you've never heard of them. I'm doing my research in trying to come up with my gut check picks, which is not fair because my gut check picks are supposed to be just that, just not really analyzing too much. But there's just something about this young upstart team with a manager who has proven success of winning World Series. In all honesty, there are many times that I think about they probably still would have won even without Trash Can Gate and wearing mics underneath your uniform. All of that stuff. But I like the Detroit Tigers in the end. And that brings us to the AL East. The AL East. This is difficult. This is difficult because I love my Orioles. And just like I love the Nats. I love the Nats, but we know that there was no chance that I even should have brought them up in a gut check pick conversation of who was going to win the NL East, right? We know that. But there is something about what Boston has done this offseason that this could be their year. When I was going to call them the Braves. It used to be the Boston Braves. When the Boston Red Sox decided that they wanted to make a trade, Rafael Devers is the best player on the Red Sox. And when they wanted to bring in Alex Bregman, the first thing that came to my mind was kind of like, uh-oh, that can't be good. And in many ways, I thought that was going to be trouble. I really did. But what they have done is to be able to add pitching, starting with Garrett Crochet, which, I mean, oh my gosh, he's amazing. And I think the fact that you've got a really, really good outfield, you still got Rafael Devers. Bregman, if I remember this stat, it was like he had the best OPS. I think maybe it might have just OPS. It might have been average and even RBI in Fenway Park playing against Boston. And now he's playing for that team. And I just think that what they have done this year in retooling is nothing short of amazing. And it probably hurt me more to not pick the Orioles to win the AL East. But I also feel like they got to roll this Chapman, Lucas Giolito, Liam Hendricks. I mean, I'm just looking at this roster, and Tristan, I always say his name wrong. Tristan Casas? I'm saying it wrong. I know I'm messing it up. Trevor Story, Jaron Duran. I'm rooting for the Orioles. They are my 1A because I think the Yankees losing Juan Soto, and they're dealing with some injuries, including Garrett Cole, who's out for the year and maybe part of the 2026 season as well. The Orioles are definitely a 1A. I would have picked them to win it if they had kept Corbin Burns. And the fact that they said, hey, we don't need Corbin Burns. I love Cowser, Rushman, Henderson, Jackson Holiday. I even picked up the pitcher. What is it? Tomoyuki Sugano is his name. In my fantasy league. I think they're 1A. That's my feeling, right? So if they're going to be 6 teams, right? My gut check picks, AL East. Red Sox win the AL East. The Detroit Tigers win the AL Central. The Rangers, Texas Rangers win the AL West. The Braves win the NL East. The Cubs win the NL Central. And the Dodgers win the NL West. Now, the wild card teams, I think the Phillies will be in there in the National League. I say the Brewers and the Padres. In the American League, boy, Kansas City Royals will be there. I think the Red Sox will be there. And the Astros. Those are my teams for the wild card. To represent the American League is probably the hardest part for me. I think the Dodgers will win the National League. Oh, boy. Am I picking Boston to win the American League and get to the World Series? Yeah. I'm picking Boston. And maybe this is like like a reverse curse, if you will, a way for me to pick a team that isn't the Orioles, so I don't feel like a homer pick, if you will. Maybe that's what I'm doing here. But the team to win it all, and I feel like it's not even a gut check, will be, of course it will be, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Back-to-back World Series champs. And you may not like that. And I would not hold it against you if you felt like, oh, come on. We don't want the Dodgers again. I'll give you that. I will. I'll give you that. I'm going to give you something else. Before I go to the NBA, the Steelers. The other day, you saw Russell Wilson sign with the Giants. And I know that there were some people thinking that, oh, well, if they traded for DK Metcalf, then maybe that means that Russell Wilson's coming back. And I thought the same thing, too. I really did. But now, not so much. With Russell Wilson gone, I do think that, and I'm not even going to say it's really a bold prediction, that I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a Pittsburgh Steeler. And I just don't like it. In an earlier podcast, I talked about how Justin Fields and Russell Wilson together, I thought was a good experiment for the Steelers. You get an old veteran. You get a younger quarterback who, obviously with the Bears, it wasn't all lovey-dovey there. Actually, if they had kept Lovie Smith, I think they'd be in better place, the Bears, that is. But I thought that it was one of those things where like Russell Wilson will be there for 1 or 2 years. He'll groom Justin Fields to grow into that role. Then Justin Fields got hurt. Russell Wilson was hurt at the beginning of the season, but then he kind of caught fire. But then his age kind of caught up with him towards the end of the season. It showed when they couldn't score points. And in my mind, I cannot see a scenario where Aaron Rodgers wins in Pittsburgh. You saw what was happening in Green Bay. Hey, let's move on to Jordan Love. You saw what happened in New York with the Jets. I mean, the first season he got hurt in that, first 4 plays of the season? That was fluke. But what isn't fluke is age. And Aaron Rodgers has aged. He's not a Tom Brady 40-year-old. He's not. He's a man. But he's not Tom Brady. And I think that, bold prediction, having Aaron Rodgers at the quarterback position for the Pittsburgh Steelers may end up being the first season that under Mike Tomlin that the Steelers have a losing season. Now, here's a caveat to that. And I want to say, Cam Hayward was like, hey, I don't feel like trying to recruit another quarterback. I did that for Russell Wilson. I'm not doing that for Aaron Rodgers. I just want somebody who wants to come and play here. There is a certain type of player and character that Mike Tomlin seems to want on the team, who doesn't have an ego, that wants to win, but doesn't make it about himself. That ain't Aaron Rodgers. It's not. And so I'm curious if a market like this, Pittsburgh Steelers fans will even really be able to get around someone like an Aaron Rodgers. He kind of fit in New York with his ego. Even when they didn't win, people would still talk about him. And that's what he wanted, and that's what New York wanted, to always be in the news. I don't know if that's going to work out here with the Steelers. Now, if there's somehow Shedeur Sanders falls into their lap, maybe it's a trade up or something. Now we're talking. But then you got to wonder, will Aaron Rodgers be comfortable grooming a Shedeur Sanders or whatever quarterback they bring in? They've got to bring back in a quarterback, a younger quarterback, because you can't go into this season with Aaron Rodgers, right? You can't. It just is not going to work. And then here's the other thing that I know you're going to bring up. You're going to say, well, they do have a quarterback in Mason Rudolph as a backup. Nope. He doesn't count. There is nobody more than I root for, because as much as you can trash the record as not meaning much, the fact that Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in going on 20 years is amazing. Because the fact that he's won a Super Bowl, to me, he's on that almost at a point where you can put him, you may not put him on Mount Rushmore, but that next tier of a head coach. He is amazing what he does with his rosters. And I said it before in another podcast, there was no year when you had Ben Roethlisberger as your quarterback that there was an opportunity to really feel like, oh, we need to draft that next franchise quarterback. Go look at it. It was never going to work out. There never was a scenario that really worked out well when you look at where the Steelers were drafted. I think their highest pick when you looked at it, I think was 14. It might have been 12. So if they can find a way to get Shedeur Sanders, maybe you got something. Because there aren't many quarterbacks when you look at this draft. Mock draft for 2025. I don't have all of this stuff in my head. But I tell you what, there wasn't a lot of quarterbacks. I know Cam Ward, and you know he's probably going to go one. Shedeur Sanders to the Giants. In one mock draft, he was going pretty early. But now they got Russell Wilson. And I'm just going to ask you, if you're a Giants fan, I'm going to ask you if you're in the Giants front office, I'm going to ask you if you are dangerous. Look at the Atlanta Falcons. You sign Kirk Cousins to a big contract, and then you draft Michael Penix Jr. You like that? It's never a good situation. Maybe they've had a conversation with Russell Wilson. They said, look, we want you to come in. We want you to work with Shedeur. But if you're Russell Wilson, it happens to many quarterbacks. Probably the only one it ever happened to is Tom Brady. Although Tom Brady came in for, oh my gosh, I was about to say Drew Brees, but it wasn't Drew Brees. Drew Bledsoe, right? Drew Bledsoe got hurt. Tom Brady came in. Rest is history. So maybe they're working that out. But if you're looking for another quarterback in this draft, there just really isn't one. That isn't a bona fide player that you're going to get excited by. There's Jackson Dart at Ole Miss, Quinn Ewers at Texas, Jalen Milroe at Alabama, Cal McCord, Syracuse. I'm going off of a list here. I'm not going to act like I know all these players off the top of my head. But if you're the Steelers drafting this year, #21st pick, I don't know. I don't know if you end up signing Aaron Rodgers, if he's going to be comfortable with that. And I think the Steelers know that too. And I wouldn't be surprised if those are the kind of conversations they have to have. Hey, man, look, if you come here, are you willing to groom the next quarterback? Maybe Aaron Rodgers went into his dark tent for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and just thinking about what's next for him. I mean, because you know he's going to get a big TV deal when he does retire that'll probably pay him more money than he may have made as a quarterback. So that's where I go with it. Is it worth it for the Steelers to bring in someone like this who will change the culture of this team, who will affect the fan base, and maybe not for the better? Maybe it's worth it to just say, hey, fans, look, we brought back in Mason Rudolph. We're going to draft a quarterback. Maybe you find another veteran late. Maybe you trade for Kirk Cousins. Maybe. I'm just saying. Now that could be a real hot take. Because Kirk Cousins does not want to be in Atlanta. And I think he could fit here in Pittsburgh. I think he could. That actually is a much better hot take. Okay, not bad. Not bad. All right. What also is not bad, when you get to the NFL draft is coming up, but you also got the NBA playoffs. And the way that the teams are shaping up, there are a couple of races to talk about. Bucks and Pistons battling for 5 and 6. Maybe you could throw the Pacers in there because they're 2 games ahead of the Bucks. That's going to be fun to watch them jockey for a position. because I don't think any of them want to play the Cavs or Celtics in the first round. You don't. And thinking about the play-in tournament, you've got the Hawks, as I'm recording this. The Magic are a half a game behind the Hawks. You've got the Bulls and Heat battling for the 9th and 10th seed. And realistically, I felt like every other team is out. Toronto is 6 games back of the Heat. We don't even need to talk about them. But as it stands, the winner of Bulls Heat would play the Cavs. And I'm sorry, I meant what I was. You didn't want to play the Cavs or Celtics in the second round, not the first round, because I did almost forget. Well, you got 7 and 8 seeds, so that's going to have to play into it. But I know that if I had to pick which team I wanted to play, I think that the Knicks are more vulnerable. And if I'm going to jockey to play a team, I think I might want to play them in that next round. I think you'll get the Bulls and Cavs. And the Magic, I think, will beat the Hawks. See the way the Magic took care of Cleveland? And remember last year, they took them to Game 7 in the playoffs. I was at that game. It was exciting. Cavs won and moved on to play Boston. But that was a good game. But if the playoffs started today, you're the Pistons, you get to play the Knicks. I think that's good for you. I don't think you want to play the Pacers or the Bucks. There's something about the Pacers right now, and I thought last year they were a very strong team. Halliburton, having played on the Olympic team, has grown up a lot. Pascal Siakam, Nembhard, they are a strong, tough team. Now, the Knicks have not fared well against top teams in the regular season. And I just wonder if in the playoffs, when you get a Cade Cunningham, who's getting his first real taste of the playoffs, that they are going to be the hot team. And that's going to be fun to watch. I like that you're getting the Knicks with Karl Anthony Towns, seeing what he can do. You know, obviously he was on Minnesota when they made the playoffs too. And I think that Minnesota made a mistake here. I do. I really do. Maybe it's growing pains. Maybe it's something where it's just going to take them a year and next year they'll be fine with Julius Randle. That very well might happen. But in many ways, I feel like the Knicks may be the most vulnerable team in this in the top 6, not the play-in. Now, of the play-in teams, the team you don't want to see, I think, are the Magic. I think Paolo Banchero is not a superstar in the making. He is a superstar. And the fact that they took the Cavs to 7 games, man, if you're the Celtics, Celtics will take care of them. Who am I kidding? But maybe next year. In the Western Conference, I'm not going to buy into the conspiracy that Luka was traded to the Lakers on purpose. We may never know the answer to that. Those papers may be released. The number of years it took to release the JFK papers, it will take even longer to release the Mav Luka papers or the Nico Luka papers, whatever you want to call them. But Luka going to the Lakers, how? Well, in what world, again, would you make that trade? You wouldn't. There's a talk about the owners are purposely trying to tank the team so they can move them to Vegas. because they're Vegas guys, right? Ownership group is their casino guys. And they want a casino in Dallas, and apparently there's a lot of trouble trying to get a casino in Dallas. I don't want to get into all of that. But I will say that there's nothing more exciting for the NBA to have Luka on the Lakers and miraculously Jimmy Butler, who wasn't happy with basketball in Miami, land in Golden State. And now all of a sudden, until LeBron and Steph both got hurt, right? Father Time caught up with both of them a little bit. Until the injuries, and as of this recording, Lakers have lost 3 in a row. Golden State have lost 2. There was the excitement like, ooh, you do not want to see either one of those teams in that second round. Although I guess, wait, is that called the first round? Yeah, it is called the first round. I was right. Okay, the first round. Yeah. First round. The battles for positions, as I've talked about many times, right? In the play-in tournament, Kings and Suns, same record, 35 and 37. Clippers, Timberwolves, percentage points apart. They're both jockeying for 7 and 8. You've got the Nuggets, Grizzlies, and Lakers. A game separates the 3. And those are going to be fun races to watch. Dallas is on the outside looking in, only a half a game behind the Suns, and they're getting Anthony Davis back. They've lost Kyrie Irving for the year. It will be miraculous if Anthony Davis can help the Mavs get back into the play-in tournament. And I think that the Suns, who won 4 in a row, it will be a disaster if they miss the playoffs completely. And I think that the owner may dismantle the team. He may have to. I think it might be a little too early. I mean, realistically, this was only Beal and Booker and KD's first year together, and they still dealt with some injuries. But I could see why you would be frustrated with a team that, hey, at the beginning of the season, I picked them to get to the NBA Finals, if I remember correctly. But if Dallas can find a way to still get in the play-in tournament, maybe Nico kind of saved his job a little bit. Not a lot, a little bit. But I think it will be the Suns in the end. I think it should be the Suns if they're healthy. Dallas, if you had Kyrie and AD, okay, that's cool. That's a good team. But outside of that, I just don't know. I just don't know if I really want to see that team in the playoffs or just in the play-in tournament, which is only one game, right? But the point of talking about these teams being so close to each other, having the same record, jockeying for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th seed. And technically, I think the Timberwolves, Clippers, and Warriors, because, you know, the Warriors could drop back into the play-in tournament if maybe the Clippers or Timberwolves moved up, depending on how they're playing. They're all Lakers 3-7 in their last 10. Golden State 7-3. Clippers 8-2, and Timberwolves 7-3. So they're all kind of playing well right now. Kings are going the opposite direction, 2-8. It's not looking good. Not looking good for them. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe you want to see the Kings lose and the Mavericks get in, but because obviously De'Aaron Fox is no longer with the Kings, he's in San Antonio now, and they would have been one of my playoff sleepers until Wembanyama went down, and then they shut down De'Aaron Fox for the season. But the thing is, the problem with the, what do I want to call it? Resting players, load management, is it affects every one of these games. And now you're here at the end of the season, and it's like maybe you wouldn't have to be so worried about your playoff position if you had a little bit more of a lead. That's where I'm going with this. That you cannot put yourself in this kind of a position. That's what it is. And when you play with load management and you gamble the way that they have, versus maybe just saying, okay, instead of load management and having a player sit out the whole game, let me cut down on the minutes per game as another way of load management, maybe you wouldn't put yourself in this position. As it stands, it would be Grizzlies versus Lakers, Nuggets versus Clippers. In that 3, 4, 5, 6, I think that the Nuggets are kind of picking it back up. And it's going to be fun to see down the stretch what happens here as these teams are jockeying for position. It's a Sweet 16 position for the NCAA men's tournament. My heart goes out to the USC Trojans losing Juju. That was tough. Juju was my pick in my women's bracket, and it's not going to be USC winning. But I am happy. I'm a big Juju and Paige Beckers fan, and I think this might be UConn's year. AZ Fudd. I watched AZ Fudd. Actually called a couple games of hers at St. John's. I'd be happy for her to hoist that trophy too. That would be exciting. But we're talking about the men's tournament, Sweet 16. My bracket has St. John's getting to the Final Four. So it's not busted, but I'm not doing great. The biggest surprise to me is Arkansas. The only double-digit seed in the tournament. My gut check picks, I still pick Duke to win it all. And I know SEC has 7 of their 14 teams, 7 of the 14 teams that were in the bracket still alive, 7 of the 16 that are in the Sweet 16 alive. And I'm rooting for the ACC. I'm rooting for Duke. I picked Duke. One bracket, because I had the opportunity to do 2 brackets, I pick Auburn in another one just for fun. But I'm rooting for Duke. And in the end, if the ACC wins, then do you say, hey, it doesn't matter about how many other teams were in it. ACC has the best team in college basketball. It remains to be seen. But I like Duke to beat Arizona. I am surprised Michigan got where they are, but I think Janai Broome in Auburn will get all the way to the Final Four. Ole Miss versus Michigan State. I picked Michigan State, so I'm still alive there. And I'm not surprised at BYU. I picked BYU in Alabama, and I picked Alabama. I picked Alabama to get to the Elite Eight, and I picked Duke to beat Alabama. The other bracket, I am over the moon about Maryland, even though he traveled. Come on, y'all saw it. He took 3 steps. 3 steps. Can we call travel in NCAA games, and can we call in the NBA? Right? All these players are traveling now, and they're missing it. I know Charles Barkley was like, oh, but if you see it in real time, it didn't look like a travel. It looked like he took one more dribble and 1-2 shot. Even if that's the case, I wish that it would have been allowed for the coach to ask for a review. Something. It's too much money at stake for referees to miss calls, to make mistakes. Are human. It's a human thing. Talk about it all the time, but my dad being a referee, I get it. However, you got to get the calls right. Too much at stake. Florida against Maryland. I know they're overjoyed in College Park, but I'm picking Florida. SEC is strong. And Florida is a sleeper team. They're really, really good. Houston, Purdue. I've got Houston. Kentucky, Tennessee. I'm surprised Kentucky's back. I'm surprised Arkansas is in there. And I feel like a lot of people probably want to see Kentucky versus Arkansas in the Final Four. And that would be must-see television. I'd be okay with that. I really would. And you may say that John Calipari has a big ego, and he does, and I've seen it firsthand. I'm not mad at it. I went to Big Blue with John Wall and got to see a little bit behind the scenes with John Calipari. I like his personality. I really do. And I think he cares for his players. And I think it shows in the fact that Arkansas is here in the Sweet 16. And to that end, the way that they're playing, I'm picking Arkansas to get to the Elite Eight against Florida. And mostly because I kind of am hoping we get a Kentucky-Arkansas. My gut check just says I'm picking Kentucky. Now, Kentucky versus Houston, that's where the dream ends because I think Houston will beat Kentucky. Can Arkansas beat Florida? Nah. I think Florida's got the firepower to get to the Final Four. So my Final Four is Florida, Houston, Duke, and Auburn. And I didn't look it up, but I don't know the last time that all four number ones made it to the Final Four. But if it happens, I'll have that stat for you on the next episode of Just for Sport. I appreciate you watching or listening. I'm Jamoke. Ciao for now.